Hey guys, it's Jessica.
And this is Kendra. And you're listening to Lucid Lab. We go to Vegas tomorrow.
We do.
We are cramming in this last one.
Yeah, we are.
Literally. We leave tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. and we're here recording at about 4 p.m.
And we still have to pack, and I still got some work to do, and kids and pets to transport, and just a lot of fun stuff. You know?
That's how dedicated we are. And
we are.
And we're like, if we don't do it now, it will be even harder when we come back to try and get it in. So I researched a case probably quicker than I ever have for the podcast. I hope it makes sense today. I think it will still be really good. But,
I think we put in a good amount of research here. I do listen to some other podcasts, and I remember hearing one girl say, I researched for a whole day. This is the most I've ever researched. And I'm like, what are we doing wrong? Because some of these podcasts are so popular, and they literally look it up in the afternoon. And
they
I'm like,
read Wikipedia. We spend a lot of time.
I hope you guys appreciate it.
I hope so too. I usually listen to multiple podcasts, books, and then I'll read articles. I try and get the full view.
Exactly.
Before. And for this case today, I was only able to consult maybe 3 different sources. So
it's all right. We'll still enjoy it.
It will still be good, but it could have some incorrect information.
That's fine. We'll come back and do another episode. I've seen people do that, we got to do that better.
I have to say something about last week's episode.
Oh no, what?
In the beginning. So I was listening to the episode and I started laughing, and I want to make sure everyone knows that I do understand that it is an EMF reader, not an EDM reader. I said EDM.
You know why you said that though? Because I was listening back to Yates, and you talked about the Warreneckis and that he became an EDM singer or something. Do you remember?
I was in this dance mojo move. I don't know. It's funny because I said it so confidently, and then when I was listening, I'm like, really, Kendra, you sound like an idiot. You just said EDM reader.
It's all right.
So that is not what we rented. We rented an
EMF reader.
Yes. Just wanted to make sure that's out there.
She wasn't having a dance party at Lizzie Borden. She was trying to talk to them.
I mean, the dance party probably would have been a good time.
I mean, they might have enjoyed it.
Maybe the ghost would have come out. They're like, nobody's done that before.
Nobody does that. They just come into our house all the time and bug the shit out of us.
They're usually like, show yourself. And you brought music. So it's been what, a
couple days?
I was about to say, since we've seen each other. We don't have a whole lot of new news to share.
Not really.
Really, we're headed to Vegas tomorrow, like we said. And
we're going to Vegas tomorrow, and we're just going to go with the flow, and we're going to let loose. Yes. I need to let loose.
Yeah, we're going to get Jessica away from work and podcast. And
I'm not even bringing my computer. And I have not brought my computer with me anywhere for the last decade. So this will be a new change for me.
Yeah, I'm not bringing my computer either. We're not even going to work on the podcast. We're not going to work on anything except having a good time and not worrying about anything.
Yeah, and then we are stupid too at the same time because we decided to take a 7 a.m. flight back from Las Vegas.
I mean,
when we come back, that's going to be a rough one for me. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be real rough.
The one good thing about that is that we will maybe just not go to bed.
But then I got to come home and get my kid.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I need a nap somewhere.
You should have just let everyone know you're not coming back till Monday.
I wish my life worked like that. I'm the main person.
I know. I've been there my whole life too. I get it. My kids are just old enough now that they can leave me alone.
Yeah. I also get sad about it. Right now I'm really, really sad actually, because yesterday was supposed to be my daughter's championship softball game. Mm-hmm. And I was going to be there, but because of Denver's lovely, I really do enjoy it. All the thunderstorms we've been having, it did its typical afternoon thunderstorm, which it's done literally every day.
It's doing right now outside.
Is it? Yeah, I didn't even look. And they canceled her game. And I'm really frustrated about that because it literally did the same thing the week before and it wasn't canceled. And the ground really wasn't that wet. It was fine. But now I'm missing my daughter's championship game. And she's in the top 2 teams. And she hit the winning point on her last game that they beat the top team. And so my heart is shattered.
Hopefully grandma will video or something.
That's not good enough.
I know.
So now I'm like, okay, you keep giving us these thunderstorms, rain the hardest on Thursday, so that they're forced to cancel again, and then it's rescheduled for next Tuesday, and then I can go.
Well, let's hope.
Yeah. I'm putting it out in the universe. It's thundering right now. Yeah. I mean, listen to me, guys. I mean, yeah, I'm loving these thunderstorms. I'm not looking forward to the
111
degrees in Vegas. We talked about it last time, but I have anxiety about it.
I don't think it's like registering what that's going to feel like. It's going to feel like
everybody's
hell.
Like, it's dry heat. It's not. I'm like, it's still, 111. Give me a break, guys.
It's the gates of hell.
Right.
I had this like anxious thought the other night, and I don't know, I'm not usually that nervous about traveling, but I was like, what if the electricity goes out in Vegas?
We will say that. That's like zombie movie crap.
And I'm like, if we're trapped there, we're just going to die. It's 111 degrees. So that's my happy thought for the trip. That's what my brain does. I swear. I will be like falling asleep. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, let's think about a worst case scenario that could happen.
I know.
I am committing right now. I'll commit to Jessica, and I'll put it out into the world that I am not going to drink too much. I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to get happy, drunk. I'm going to know my limits and stop, because my 43-year-old body cannot handle
I know.
alcohol like it could in its 20s. So
I know. Exactly.
I've accepted that.
I've already told Kendra, I'm like, can we immediately go somewhere and buy jugs of water? Because I'm going to need water, and I don't want to have to pay $8 for some tiny water bottle in a gift shop somewhere.
And we have 2 girls on the trip who don't drink.
Yes.
So that will help keep us all in check too, hopefully.
Maybe. I mean, I'm committed to. I want to remember and enjoy. Still let loose, but that doesn't mean you have to not remember. We're too old. That's
exactly.
Silly. I mean, I know it's Vegas, but
and we're paying a lot of money to be there.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Let's make good memories, and
exactly.
I guess let's go ahead and get into the story.
And I have no idea what she's even talking about. She told me a name 2 days ago because it came out of her butt. I don't know.
I totally I was going to do a completely different episode, and it was becoming too much. I needed more time, and I was like, I can't do justice to this. So I literally found this case and did it in 2 days.
Yeah. So I don't know what it is.
Yeah. So I am talking about the case today of Annaliese. Now, I don't know for sure how to say her last name. I listened to 3 different podcasts to try and get an answer, and every single one of them pronounced her last name different. So her first name is Annaliese, and I think her last name is Michel. It is spelled Michel. You might have heard her referred to as Michael or Michel. Those are the other 2 ways I've heard it pronounced.
What are you going to do? Just say
I'm
Annaliese.
doing Annaliese Michel, and I'll probably never say her last name again.
Okay, so there we go.
But if you're wanting to look up information,
I mean, are there
it'll
any,
be in the episode. There are no any kind of marks or anything like that. And this story comes to us from Germany, and that last name is not German. So whatever their heritage is, I looked it up. I tried to find ways to pronounce it, and everything I heard said Michel, as a French.
Watch, it's Mitchell.
Could be anything. So I tried.
It's fine.
This case started in the 1970s. And it was right after, so 1973 was when The Exorcist came out.
Okay.
And that was the famous possession movie. Everybody knew of demon possession through The Exorcist. I think we've all watched, different horror movies and things like that. And it's a real common theme in movies and TV shows nowadays, demon possession, but it really wasn't until The Exorcist came out. It's also easy to forget that a lot of these are based on real stories.
Yeah.
It's a real practice, and it continues to be performed on real people even to this day. There was a recent article that there has been a rise in requests for exorcisms in America in the past 5 years.
I believe it.
It's crazy. So they said that they actually needed to hire and train more people within not just the Catholic Church, but also other evangelical denominations have exorcism as well. And they're saying they're getting calls up to 20 per day right now in America, with people needing or requesting help.
It's spiritual warfare out there.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And in the past, it used to be 5 to 10. So we're up to 20 now. Not all calls coming into exorcist can be explained as demon possession. In fact, most will be discovered to be something else like dissociative
identity disorder
or some other kind of mental disorder. And so we now have a lot of psychiatrists also involved in, working alongside the exorcists. And I actually did some research on that as much as I could in 2 days. And I did find a couple of psychiatrists, PhD psychologists that are working with these exorcists. And they're saying, we come in to give the scientific side, and they said it is increasingly rare, like probably of the 20 calls, one
maybe
per month. You know, okay,
yeah.
so you got 20 calls, that's 600 calls a month.
Yeah.
Maybe one will fit demon possession and the rest will be other explanations. But he said there are these very, very rare instances where there is nothing else that can explain what happened.
Yeah. And I've seen movies where they are very picky on if they even go to investigate anything. It is interesting that other denominations are coming out to help with that. Not like they're helping the Catholic Church, but coming out to do that because I believe it has to be approved by the Archdiocese, right?
That is the case that I am bringing today. This will go into demon possession, and it is crossed with true crime actually as well.
Okay.
So Anneliese Michel, most people would know her as the inspiration for the film The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Oh, I've seen that
Have
movie.
You seen that?
Yeah.
Did you know it was based on a true story?
I did know that. So it's based on her.
Yes.
Okay. It has been a while since I've seen it, though.
So The Exorcism of Emily Rose did come out in 2005. So we were both a lot younger than we are today.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was remembering. I felt like I was a teenager at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I was out of school.
So she was a young woman who actually died in the throes of what I would consider an excessive number of exorcisms. 67 to be exact.
Is that where this true crime comes into it? Because they're blamed for her dying?
Yes. So that's why it's kind of a cross of both, because we're going to look at it, and this will be, again, you get to decide kind of a case.
Yeah.
What do you believe happened? Do you believe that the priests and the parents were on the wrong side of it? They did end up in trial.
Okay.
So that is where the true crime will come in.
Gotcha.
So this happened in 1976 in Germany. Official autopsy reports would show that Anneliese Michel died of starvation and the inability to eat at the age of 23 after being subjected to 67 exorcisms in just 10 months.
Yeeks.
Actually, she has been designated as an unofficial Catholic saint. Some Catholics believe that she was a woman of holy goodness who suffered and died for their sins. And we'll get into this in the story. She felt like she was doing this for the greater good. And it's one of the theories behind what may have been happening.
Okay.
You know, if you believe in demon possession, or was there a mental piece to it, or was there
abuse and
some religious fanaticism, martyrdom. So we're going to talk about all of those things, but she is considered a saint. And there was actually articles out there on Catholic websites talking about the good things that she did. And she had actually written down some prayers and things for people before she died.
Interesting.
Others would argue that Anneliese is an example of what happens when religious fervor goes a little too far, like I just said.
Yeah.
Whatever your belief, I'm going to present all of the facts and you can decide for yourself, but she will always be remembered as a tragic figure behind one of the most well-known and honestly terrifying cases of demonic possession. Undeniable to anyone who researches this case is how our fundamental understanding of the world around us is really challenged by this case. You have to listen to this story, and even going in, if you're skeptical of demon possession, I'm going to have some audio recordings and things like that that might just make you think differently.
Ooh, she sounds like a man.
What do you think of demon possession? Is that something that you believe?
I believe wholeheartedly that could happen.
Yeah.
There always is that mental question. Is this person's mind breaking? Because we already know, too, that with dissociative multiple personality disorder, whatever it's called today, when you have those other personalities, they can come out differently out of your mouth. Someone can sound like a child and then the next sentence sound like a grown-ass man and then the next sentence sound like a woman. There's manipulation that can happen within our own vocal cords, and I think our personality does influence how we speak and the tone in which we speak, and there's other body factors that come into play with that, but all we have to do is look at actors. They can change their voice for everything.
You're right.
That's what's hard, is you're always going to be able to do what you can to debunk something.
Right.
But I absolutely believe that this can happen. Absolutely. Especially if you're very vulnerable, you have a lot of stress going on in your life. Maybe you're just a spiritually sensitive person, so you're already more open and susceptible to being taken over. But yes.
Right. Before I get into all the details of this case, I looked into a little bit of this myself because it's like, what do I believe? Because I do think it's possible to be possessed. I grew up in the church. I've read the Bible. It talks about demonic possession even in the Bible and probably every religion out there. And like we've discussed on past episodes, where there's stories, there's usually truth behind it.
Right. It doesn't come out of nowhere.
Do I think every person who thinks they're possessed by demons is? Probably not.
Yeah.
I think there is some vulnerable minds. I mean, think about Andrea Yates that we just talked about a couple weeks ago. She thought she was possessed, and I don't believe that she was.
No, I don't believe she was possessed. The one thing that makes me start to think of a possession being true is when there is a lot of manipulation of their body parts.
Yes.
Or they can do something that's just not human. That's when you have to stop and be like, okay,
something's different.
Or she just got injected with alien DNA and it's really more of an abduction.
Something's growing inside.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about Dr. Gallagher, and he wrote a book called Demonic Foes. His name's Dr. Richard Gallagher, and he is the person I mentioned in the beginning and just didn't have his name in front of me right now, but he is someone who got pulled into this because there was a very hard case in the 1970s, same time frame. 70s are always crazy.
70s.
And he got pulled in by a Catholic priest who was having trouble with a woman that was possessed, and she was part of a satanic cult. He had never dabbled in demon possession, but he went in and started sitting in on so many exorcisms, and he's a Yale educated psychiatrist, and he ended up writing this book because he was in so many exorcisms over the rest of his career that he was like, he's like the rational like skeptic that went in, and it changed his mind because he saw so many things.
What did he do with that girl? Well, you signed up.
What do you mean?
The girl from the satanic cult. Why do you need exorcism?
Well, so he tells a story, and this is how it started, is the night before the priest knocked on his door, he had 2 cats at his house. And in the middle of the night, his 2 cats that were like friendly with each other were like going at it. It woke him and his wife out, and he came out, and they were like in death grips, like,
oh, that makes me sad,
meowing at each other or like hissing or whatever and like really fighting. And then the next day, this priest knocks on his door, and this girl is with him named Julia. And he said, you know, she has like the full gothy like eyeliner up to her hair and everything.
Yeah.
And the first thing she said to him was, how did you like what I did with your cats last night?
Oh my God.
So like that just gave me chills just even thinking about it.
This is reminding me of something. So I told you about the ghosties here.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just call them that. So my cat, night before, and she's old. I mean, she's very playful and fun and stuff, but she doesn't do this often. She was doing the zoomies.
Yeah.
They run real fast back and forth.
Right.
But prior to this, I had put my daughter to bed, and I was out doing some stuff in the house, and I heard laughing.
Ugh.
And I thought maybe her TV was on in her room or something. So I went to her room, and TV's not on. I heard it again, and it's coming from my bedroom. And as I'm walking back to the bedroom, I see my cat running back and forth from the far wall of my window into the bathroom all the way there. She's going back and forth. And as I'm walking to my room, I heard the laughing again. And here she is being crazy. And the whole time she's doing demonic little meows.
Ugh.
So I walk into my room, and she sees me, and she's like, meow. She like, just turned into typical Saphira, and she's looking up at me, and I'm like,
nice.
I was like, you playing with my kitty? You better be nice. And then I just walked out. And that's how I handled it. But then she was doing it again last night while I was out doing stuff in the rest of the house. And she's just running back and forth in my room, and she's doing these weird meows. And so I walked up real slow to her, and she was coming out of the bathroom, and I just kind of peeked my head into the bathroom door frame, and she's walking towards me, and she's not looking up, so she didn't see me. And when she walked out, she just saw my feet. And she like freaked out, and she screamed so loud at me. It was so funny. But I'm like, I have a ghost here that's playing with my cat.
Well, at least they like your cat. They're not torturing it or anything.
Well, I told you here in the room, it feels like that girl, and I didn't feel anything bad from her. So
yeah,
Saphira has a friend. Point is, cats are sensitive to all this stuff. So.
And so that girl basically said, I was messing with your cats last night, and he was like, this is weird. And he also said that the same girl told him things about his life that nobody would know. And so I bring this up because there are ways that priests and the psychiatrists that work with them know and ask questions and like judge a situation and know if it's true demon possession or something else. And one of those things is if they know things that they shouldn't know,
Yeah.
Like kind of like these psychic abilities that this person never displayed before.
Right.
The other is human strength and able to do things. We will hear in Annaliese's story, the girl's only like,
well, she weighs like nothing now, right?
Yeah, she was 68 pounds when she died.
Oh, goodness.
But even at her full weight, she was only like 100 pounds, and she'll do things that don't make sense for a girl who's 100 pounds.
Right. Yeah.
And then also speaking languages that they don't know.
Okay, that's a big one. I mean, sure, if it's like a kid who like really wants to be in the spotlight for having this crazy thing going on in their life, maybe they could go online and like listen to one thing.
Right.
And like just memorize it really, really good.
Right.
I mean, I could see that happening, but if you're having a full conversation and you don't know that language, especially a language that's not taught anymore, because isn't it often Latin or something like that? Yeah.
I just bring those up because as we go into the story, I want people to be thinking about those, and does it fit the situation, or is it more mental illness?
I mean, it could be both. Maybe when she has her lucid moments, she's breaking from reality at the same time. I mean, she is being possessed.
If you're being possessed,
and she's made to do crazy shit. So when she has a lucid moment, she's probably like, fuck.
I did that. Oh my God. Okay, so let's talk about Annaliese and where all of this started. So Annaliese was born in 1952. She came from a small Bavarian town, which is in the southern part of Germany. And that town is called Klingenberg. And that is in the Catholic heartland of Germany. It is probably an area of Germany that's more superstitious than perhaps like northern Germany or some of the more developed areas. It was also a very religious area, and she was brought up in that Catholic tradition. Her family was very devout, and they were traditional Catholics. They were so traditional, in fact, that it was considered a longstanding family tradition for the Michels to dedicate at least one child to a career within the church. So becoming a nun or a priest or something like that.
Dedicate.
Sacrifice.
That's what they're like, this one.
So I bring this up because
it's like you're being bred.
I know.
Just to do this one thing that they need you to do.
They're like, you're going to be a nun. And you're like, but I want to have babies.
I love a man.
I want to have sex in my life. Don't tell me that.
That's fucked up. Sorry.
So Annaliese herself from a young age expressed the desire to one day become a teacher of the principles of the Catholic religion. I think that still allowed her to get married, etc.
Okay.
Her mother, Anna, told the Telegraph in 2005, so after she passed away, she had a child out of wedlock in 1948. And she said that brought such shame on her family that she was made to wear black on her wedding day.
Oh my God.
So I'm just painting the picture here. So the mother tried hard to atone for her sin.
Of course.
Because she had that baby out of wedlock.
My goodness.
Oh no.
Where's the baby?
She's like that baby is one of Annaliese's siblings.
So he's still there. It wasn't.
Yes.
Okay.
And it doesn't say if it was a boy or girl, but it was one of her siblings.
I decided it's a boy for some reason.
So the mother, like I said, was trying, I guess, to atone for that sin, and maybe she went a little far. It was said that she went to great extremes with her piety and her religious fervor, and she taught that to her younger children as well. So Annaliese was subject to that because her mother felt guilty for having sex before marriage, God forbid. And so she was raised in that super strict Catholic home.
Think about that for a second. This is one of the things that drives me nuts about religion and guilt and shame. She had sex. Sex can literally happen in 2 seconds. You're in the moment.
Hormones.
Hormones are going crazy and you're not thinking, or it wasn't really, she felt pressured or something like that. But it's something that in some cases literally lasts 1 minute, and she's supposed to atone for that for the rest of her life.
I know.
That doesn't seem right to me. I've never understood that.
I don't understand their whole hang up on sex. And every animal in the world does it. So speaking more about Annaliese's family, her father had always considered becoming a priest, I guess, until he got her mom pregnant. And 3 of her aunts were nuns as well. So very strict family she came from.
Right.
So Annaliese was a naturally sensitive girl, and I think she internalized a lot of this, and it was said that she felt pressured to atone for the sins of others around her. So I already see some psychological stuff going here.
Yeah.
So from a young age, she would sleep on the floor as penance for drug addicts who themselves slept on the ground at the train station or elsewhere.
She just felt overcome to do that, like in her own space, even though she didn't know them. She just had the thought, oh, there's drug addicts sleeping on the floor, so I'm going to do this.
Exactly.
That does scream some mental stuff.
That devout religious upbringing could provide evidence for her later possession being the result of this religious fanaticism and or fanaticism, and that's why I bring it up.
Ooh, I can see why this is going to be a hard one, because if she does crazy stuff, but really nothing is black and white. It could just be a mixture.
I know.
Everything that she did leading up to said possession is what led to said possession, because she was so immersed in it all.
Yes. So outside of her family's religious beliefs, I want to talk about Germany at that time in the 1970s. So the area she was in Bavaria was very Catholic, but at the time, only 63% of the Catholics in that area even believed in the devil. So this wasn't like an area that was, I guess, open and believing of demon possession, like you might have heard. In comparison, if you look at France, they believed highly in the devil, and they actually had 70 exorcists who openly practiced in France at the time. Whereas in Germany, there were only 3 exorcists, and they actually operated in secret because it was kind of looked at like, you're crazy.
Oh, gotcha.
That doesn't happen. So just bringing that up, this would have been very out of the ordinary. It wouldn't have been something like, if it had happened in France, it would have been like, oh yeah, people are saying they're possessed all the time.
Yeah.
Germany, not so much. And in Italy, they same thing. In that part of Europe, they had over 70 exorcists as well. And then you go to Poland, and they had 350 exorcists.
What is happening in Poland?
I don't know.
Wow. I love Polish movies.
But if you think about German society, they're a very rational kind of culture. Even in religious matters, it's just very black and white. So it wasn't a social environment that Annaliese would have grown up hearing things about the devil. It wasn't something that they really actively talked about, even in church. So demonic possession wouldn't have been something, I guess I'm trying to say, this wouldn't have been put into her mind by, even though she was very religious, I don't think it would have been put into her mind that demon possession happened all the time.
Unless she was curious and came upon some work.
Perhaps, and we'll
like
talk about that
something.
Because she did study a lot. But
okay,
I think bringing that up just makes it where we can't just discredit it right away and say this is totally religious fanaticism that led to this, because this wasn't something that she would have been taught in Bavaria.
Right. Okay.
So outside of the religious convictions of her family, there's much to suggest that Annaliese had a very normal childhood. Her parents were described as strict yet protective. Her mother recalled that Annaliese seemed to be a very happy child. She sang all the time. She was intelligent. Teachers and professors always complimented her. She had a lot of friends at school. She was just a quiet, happy girl.
Aren't we all?
We all are when we're that age. However, Annaliese did run into a lot of illness from a young age. So before the age of 5, she contracted mumps, measles, and scarlet fever.
Okay.
So this poor girl did have a lot of health problems. And she was even regarded as such a delicate child by her school teachers that her parents were told that she should probably stay home for a year or longer just so that her immune system could catch up. Other than that, not much is said about Annaliese from a young childhood until she hit her 16th birthday. And that's where the real tale is going to begin.
Okay. It's funny that you say like to her 16th birthday. It just reminds me of like things set in stone. Like when you turn 16, you're going to become a witch. And when you and hers was when you turn 16, you're going to become possessed.
The demons are going to come visit. So it was around the time of her 16th birthday, September of 1968, she lost consciousness at school. Later that evening, sometime after midnight, so her parents came and picked her up, and then she was just, put to bed. They thought she had an illness
or something.
She woke up after midnight and she was paralyzed.
Oh.
She lost control of her bladder. And her breathing was very heavy. She felt like something was on her chest, and she said that her tongue felt sore. The moment quickly passed. It didn't last very long, but it left her terrified. It sounds similar to sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
And they thought maybe that's what it was. So
wetting the bed, I don't know.
I don't think that's usually part of sleep paralysis. No. Maybe that's when the demon entered her. I don't know. That happened in 1968. And then a year later, in August of 1969, she suffered another brief blackout similar to the first one, and she woke up and felt completely paralyzed again. So that morning, her parents took her to the doctor. They referred her to a neurologist, Dr. Siegfried Luthi, and he ran an EEG, and they determined her brain activity was normal. He determined and concluded that Annaliese was probably experiencing seizures with symptoms of grand mal epilepsy is what he diagnosed her with. There weren't that many episodes. He didn't give her any kind of medication. It was kind of just a wait and watch thing.
Yeah, after 2, you don't give heavy drugs like that.
You don't want to give anticonvulsants to somebody who's had 2
it's not like she's hurting
situations.
herself. She's like, I black out for 2 seconds. What's happening?
And then I'm
me?
paralyzed and
paralyzed.
And terrified.
I forgot that part.
And I pee myself, but it's okay.
It went black. That's all I was thinking.
So not long after her visit to the doctor, she actually got a terrible sore throat and she had to get her tonsils removed. And then after that, she got pleurisy and pneumonia. And then the poor girl, her poor body, she got further complications because she got infected with tuberculosis.
You know what it sounds like? She has an underlying issue that no one knows about. This is the 70s.
Yeah.
You know, one of those chronic issues that's lifelong and it just was not diagnosed. And so she was susceptible to all of these sicknesses. What is that? An autoimmune disease that nobody knew about. And so she's just getting all this stuff and they're just treating all these things as they come. But she probably had something much more serious.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Medical system just hadn't caught up at that time.
No.
At one point, her symptoms got so bad that she stopped attending school and she was confined to her bed.
Well, shit.
So poor thing. It was now February of 1970. So she's been dealing with this for almost 2 years and she had no improvement in her condition. And so she was admitted to a clinic in Middleburg, which specialized in treating lung diseases in young patients.
Did they put her in that big tube?
I don't know. It doesn't say everything that she did, but they said that she was told, or her parents were told there, that she had heart and circulatory problems, but they didn't go into detail about what those were.
Or what caused them.
No. And then in June of 1970, she experienced this would be her 3rd episode, where she blacked out and woke up completely paralyzed and urinated all over the bed.
Does it say how long she was paralyzed for when
it said happened? It only lasted a minute or so. So that's why I say sleep paralysis.
Yeah, I mean, that's real weird. A minute's not very long at all.
But some of these, it wasn't happening every time while she was sleeping. It was happening while she was
I know,
awake.
But have you ever, your brain is very, very powerful. She's going through a lot. There's a lot of stress.
Yeah.
She has a lot going on and she is very spiritual. She's probably questioning why.
Exactly.
Why is this happening to me? So I can see that the brain is literally just stopping her from moving.
Something.
And then she's able to come out
or
of it.
Or she's just having like a little lapse. So after this 3rd episode, she visited a different neurologist. His name was Dr. Von Haller. He did another EEG. And this time the test did reveal some irregularities in her brain.
Okay.
So he observed irregular alpha wave patterns as well as scattered delta and theta waves in her brain. And as such, he diagnosed her as having epilepsy and he prescribed her anticonvulsant medication at that time. So after being in the hospital for now about 5-6 months, she was allowed to go home on August 29th. In regards to her mental health, it's worthwhile to discuss the emotional trauma from all of this.
I mean, sounds like crap.
I mean, she's visiting multiple health professionals. Mm-hmm. They're not figuring out what's happening. They don't know. And she's just being poked and prodded like, a lab rat as a means to cope with this constant stress and the irritation at the doctor visits.
She started smoking weed.
No.
Damn.
No, she's a good Catholic girl. So she buried herself in Christian literature and practices. So she became obsessed at this point with
See, but that's
Christian
what I'm
literature.
saying is maybe she found something about this.
Demon possession.
Exactly.
And we're going to go to it again. As I mentioned at the beginning, 1974 was when the Exorcist movie came out.
Well, and then, with demon possession, if you start to learn about it, these people get sick. Things happen
and
to
you can
them
let
a lot.
Demons
and she's
in.
starting to that, but she's also starting to now justify if
why?
She's reading this, this is why this is happening to me. My goodness, I'm possessed.
And also going back to Dr. Gallagher, when he was talking about like the people that he believed were truly possessed by demons, he said there was always like a common thread between them. Most of the time they were immersing themselves in cult, like usually on the satanic side,
right.
Like they're getting obsessed with that. But
it happens.
Also, if you get too far in the other side, you can open yourself for possession as well.
Exactly.
So
because it becomes almost a delusional way about it. Like if you're so obsessed on being so
righteous,
pious, and you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like it's to an extreme, and it's not. What's the purpose of life if literally all you're doing is sitting down here? I love you, God. I won't do anything. I love you, God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Like that's not living.
No,
that's not what He wants you to do. You're down here to live.
Yes. So let's go back to her mental state. So she was in a cold environment, doctor offices. I mean, we know what mental asylums are like here in the US. I can't imagine what they're like in Germany in the 70s. They probably weren't a very welcoming place. There was also reports that she was teased, I guess, in a way by other children at the clinic. And so she didn't make very many friends. She was kind of shunned, and they called her snot nose.
And how old is she right now?
She was 16 in 1968, so she's 18.
Oh, wow. They're teasing her? Who's teasing her?
Other kids that are in the same...
Her age?
Yes, exactly.
That's ridiculous. Did she have some snot in her nose?
I'm assuming. Poor thing. Get her Kleenex.
Get her some Kleenex. Give her a heater. Give her a blanket. Shit.
So while she was there, it was noted in her medical records that she had a deteriorating mental state and that she became depressed and withdrawn, and then continued to fall into that religious literature.
All these cases we do, it's like, how were they not supposed to frickin' break?
I know. And she's sick constantly.
Yeah.
She feels like shit, and she doesn't even have any friends to confide and talk to. They're all calling 18. Her snot nose. Yeah. So her lifelong friend, Maria Burdick, testified in the court case that after her long illness, Annaliese was changed. She said she became quiet and withdrew from her friends that she did have outside the clinic.
Yeah. Well, she couldn't even do anything anymore. Technically, even if you have a good friend and they come to see you,
you're still just laying in bed.
Exactly. And you're not excelling with them and like all the social stuff, and you're just removed from everything, and it doesn't even become something you want to be a part of anymore.
Also brought up is that there are suggestions that Annaliese's relationship with her mother was very strained. Anna, her mother, was very overbearing, as I mentioned before, and she became even worse when her daughter was sick. She was very overprotective of her daughter. It would manifest in like her mom not letting Annaliese do anything. And this was before she went to the clinic, but like she wasn't able to go do things that normal girls would do. For example, they said at the age of 14, Annaliese was not allowed. She was doing ballroom dancing, really enjoying it. And her mom took her out of that class because she was like, you're just not healthy enough. I'm just so afraid for you.
That you're going to snap a bone.
So she had this overbearing mother just over her, like, oh my God, you're going to die. You're going to die. So you just think about all of these.
That's a rough thing, because if she enjoyed it, that's endorphins. Guess what that does? It helps heal your body.
I know.
And it's physical activity. Guess what that helps with?
Strengthens.
It makes you wanton. It makes you want to drink and eat more. Like, that's what would have helped her actually regain
and some confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
And like all of this.
Dancing is all about confidence. Gosh darn it.
One of the main psychiatrists that evaluated Annaliese, his name was Dr. Linner, he said that Annaliese's dysfunctional family was the root of her neuroses, as he called it.
I mean, so far.
He even brought up that Annaliese, had this deep-seated hatred towards her mother, and that is what manifests in later when we see her possessed and she's afraid of holy objects and prayers.
I gave it a chance. Now I'm possessed. Like, that's her way out.
Maybe because that was something her mom used all the time towards them, were holy objects and making them say prayers and things like that. So that could be why she has that aversion to religious elements later, because they symbolized her overbearing mother.
I mean, she could really just be traumatized from everything, and it is a multiple personality disorder, and someone else came forward and took over, and it's not her anymore. They're protecting her.
Possible. I love saying all of this because then we're going to get into what really happened, and we're probably going to do a complete turnaround because I'm going to play these things and we're like, okay, yeah, no.
All right. That was a forewarning.
But I'm bringing all of this up because I think it's interesting to see both sides of it.
Right.
We're going to see the scientific side, and then we're going to see the possession side of it. So it was sometime during her stay at this Middleburg clinic that Annaliese first started reporting encounters with the Fratzen, and that's the German word for grimaces. So I don't know.
The Grimm's brothers are there?
They might have been. You know what? I bet her mom read her the Grimm's brothers tales, and that's why. So the grimaces in Germany were like demonic faces. And I actually have a picture of this that I will post on our Instagram about what these guys look like. Whenever she would witness them, she said they would come to her. She said it would make her feel empty and as though the devil was inside of her. In addition to the Fratzen that were visiting her, Annaliese also described experiencing foul-smelling odors, something that she likened to burning fecal matter whenever the Fratzens showed up.
Oh, dang, dudes. Yuck.
So as her seizures intensified, Annaliese claimed that demonic faces were becoming more frequent and that the voices which accompanied them told her that she was damned to hell.
She's like, but why?
Right. In spite of these episodes, she was able to, I guess, function somewhat normally outside of that. When she did come out of the clinic, she actually seemed to be doing better outside of these creepy Fratzens visiting her. She seemed to be doing better. She actually got a boyfriend. His name was Peter, and started acting like a normal 18, 19-year-old.
Peter's a good name.
Yeah, he seems like a nice guy. So she was continuing to take her anticonvulsant drugs that were given to her. It was called Dilantin. And so at this time, nobody thought anything about the demonic things that she was saying. She was just regarded as having neuritis, is actually what she was officially diagnosed with possible epilepsy, because it wasn't happening frequently enough for them to say she definitely had epilepsy. So they kind of said it was more neuroses, neuritis, and then possible seizures here and there. They even called it epileptic patterns, and they gave her the Dilantin. And then another doctor, when she came in about the demonic faces she was having, it seemed like she was having more seizures. So he actually bumped her up to a stronger anticonvulsant medication called Tegretol. So now is when it's going to start getting a little crazy.
I mean, she didn't improve. She had to improve a little bit to have snatched
she got a boyfriend. Or else he liked her
that
wild
means
story.
that she was out and about a little bit.
And we're now in April of 1973. Annaliese would be about 21 years old at this point.
Of course, it's going to get crazy when she's of age. Just kidding. I don't know what Germany does.
Started drinking. It's Germany. They've been drinking since they were born.
Okay. Well, after the Grimm brothers. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So in April 1973, Annaliese began hearing noises in her bedroom. In the middle of the night, she would be awoken by the sound of knocking. No other family member could hear these noises. And once again, they took her to see a doctor, and he found nothing wrong with her hearing or anything unusual.
I mean, to take her to a doctor, it sounds like, what was it, pounding with just constant knocking?
And so this continued to escalate. Her symptoms became where she was hearing voices and hallucinations of these demonic faces, and it was becoming increasingly worse. Alongside her mental ailments, all of a sudden she was beginning to have trouble speaking and walking.
Ooh.
And she was also said to be severely depressed.
The knocking was the demon saying, "Let me in.
I'm here." She had been to all these doctors and nobody could help her. And she had been reading all of this literature. So I think in her mind, she started to wonder, am I possessed? And so this is the point where she would reach out for the assistance of a priest.
Personally, she did?
She did.
Wow.
She went to the priest because her delusions, all of these images of demons and the voices were just becoming so extreme that she was terrified.
Right.
She got to the point where she was convinced that she was possessed, and her mother said that she would be in her room performing 400 squats per day.
Why
I
squats?
guess that demon wants her to have a good booty. I don't know. Her mom said that she would rip her clothes off. She would crawl under the table and begin barking like a dog.
Okay, before you said that, I was like, puberty?
Okay, this is real weird. She began eating spiders and flies.
Can she come here? Because I have a problem.
Can you imagine your 21-year-old daughter is crawling under the table, barking, and then eating spiders in front of you?
I mean, spiders, that's right there. That's an extreme behavior.
Oh, I'm not done.
Okay.
She bit the head off of a dead bird. So, when you're eating spiders and flies, you need something to drink.
Oh,
she would urinate on the floor and began licking up her own urine.
Okay, this went somewhere real fast.
I told you it was about to get crazy.
I mean, she went for help and then she just came back. She's like, I'm
possessed.
I'm an animal.
She began to exhibit strength that her parents described as close to superhuman. She threw her sister across the room as if she were a rag doll. So this is a girl that's 100 pounds and she picked up her sister that was actually heavier than her and threw her across the room. So that's suspect, right? And during this time, her parents said she barely slept and she would pray in her room fervently all night.
But that feels so strange, though. That kind of goes back to, is she half lucid and half possessed? Why would she be praying? A demon, if he possessed her, wouldn't allow her to pray.
It must be when she popped out of it.
He's like, I have to go to the bathroom. She's like, yes.
He's like, yeah, now that you've done all this nasty stuff.
She's like, God, hurry.
She's like, please save me. I don't want to eat any more spiders.
Hopefully none of them were poisonous. She already has a weak enough body.
Her poor body. So according to her mother's testimony, one evening over dinner, Annaliese's hands began to swell and turn black.
Ooh,
Annaliese
black.
cried out, I have black hands. My savior, forgive me. As this occurred, she claimed to be able to see diabolical faces on the wall, and she described them as having 7 crowns and 7 horns. Well, her mom described them as looking animalistic when her hands swelled up. So I don't know what that means, if they were demon hands or what they exactly thought that was.
She was turning into a dog.
Maybe. I don't know. Werewolf. In addition to this, her mother, Anna, recalled one episode where Annaliese stood before a statue of the Virgin Mary and her eyes turned completely black.
Ooh.
That's creepy.
Do we trust her mom?
Do we? I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm just presenting the case.
Okay. I mean, going black, that would just solve it for me right there. Okay, your eyes went black and you were able to turn them back. You're not
human.
you.
So by now, with all of this going on, the possibility that Annaliese was demonically possessed was in high consideration. The priest that Annaliese had been communicating with, his name was Father Ernst Alt. And he, at this point, shared her convictions that she was under the influence of Satan. Alt stated during the trial, he initially approached the case with skepticism. He did not believe that demonic possession could happen in the case of someone who was baptized.
That absolves you 1,000%.
You got water on you as a baby.
Give me a break. Are you serious? Baptism saves you? It's literally when we get into our adulthood that we fuck up.
Right.
And a lot of us are baptized. I'm baptized. Are you baptized?
Yep.
Okay, so.
And I've done wonderful things.
I mean, we all have if we're comparing us to this.
I had a baby out of wedlock. Ooh.
My God. How dare you?
So let's go back to...
I don't want to be your friend anymore.
I know. I'm horrible.
Same, though.
So they brought in Dr. Luthi again, who was her psychiatrist. And he said around this time, Annaliese became incapable of making decisions for herself. He was concerned that she was a vulnerable young woman who fell under the influence of Father Alt, her mother, and others in the religiously minded community, which resulted in her believing herself to be demonically possessed. So he was definitely like questioning that diagnosis.
I mean, maybe she acts differently around different people. If she's
Possible.
only doing the dog eating spiders, weird stuff with her mom.
I mean, that's who reported most of this.
Black
was her
hands
parents.
and black eyes. I don't know, but maybe her mom is also having some mental issues and that's how she's seeing her daughter and it didn't actually happen.
Right. The possibility of demonic possession was further or seemingly further evidenced by Annaliese's growing intolerance of sacred objects, such as holy water and crucifixes. She went on a pilgrimage with her father to San Damiano, a church monastery in northern Italy. And during that visit, Annaliese found herself unable to enter the shrine. She claimed that the earth beneath her feet was burning, and it pained her to look upon holy pictures and sacraments. On the way home, Annaliese was not herself. Her voice changed, and it was deep and masculine. She also began, this one's weird, exuding a foul odor, which was so strong that other people on the bus reported how horrible the smell was.
I mean, that's one thing. I mean, did she have bad eggs? I'm just kidding. But they always do say that demon possession come with foul odors.
So this one kind of makes me start thinking, okay, if other people on the bus are saying that she's reeking, I mean, I've been around some stinky teenagers in my life, but usually doesn't smell up the whole bus.
And if it's like a sudden thing. maybe because they were in a spiritual place, it just
burned,
took over stronger. It took her over even more intensely.
So in May of 1975, Annaliese is now 22. She suffered another severe emotional trauma. Her grandmother, whom she was deeply attached, passed away. And her sister, Barbara, who she was also close to, moved away to pursue a career.
Well, she threw across the room.
Right. She's like, I'm out. Bye. So this caused her to regress even more into herself and her depression. And she became exceptionally sensitive and unable to cope with the world around her. During a conversation with Father Alt, she said, I cannot cope with reality. Some people would say this was the moment that Annaliese suffered a complete mental breakdown. They also believe from a psychiatry perspective that this is what could have led her to develop multiple personality, known today as a dissociative disorder.
Mm-hmm.
However, at the time in 1975, demonic possession was regarded as the likely explanation for Annaliese's condition. So I guess what I'm saying about all of the dissociative disorder was when psychiatrists look back at this case, they think that might have been the breaking point, because that's when everything's going to escalate again.
I mean, is she the only one now there with her parents?
It seems to be that way. I never saw anywhere how many siblings she had, but apparently this was her favorite sibling that moved away, and then her grandmother passed away, so she's there with her mom. And it doesn't ever say anything about her dad. It's really just her mom.
Who she apparently doesn't like.
Yeah.
And she's been, as far as we know, struggling and having health issues forever. And at least almost a decade now that she's been real sick going through all this.
Yeah. So this is when the exorcist is brought in. So 1975, Father Arnold Rentz, he's a senior priest and exorcist. He was brought in to help on Annaliese's case. Upon his first visit, he said that he was astounded by Annaliese. He claims that while standing, she would be repeatedly thrown to the floor by some great force. Each time she would respond in the same way. She would get up onto her knees and recite the Hail Mary prayer. Annaliese's mother stated that the devil would constantly throw her daughter to the ground, so much so that Annaliese eventually took to sleeping on the floor, and she had been sleeping on the floor for 3 years. So I don't know if he was throwing her out of the bed or what, but this was something that was recorded by Father Rentz.
Okay, wait. So she's 22, but we're talking back to 19 years old. She's
been
doing
sleeping on the
this?
floor.
Okay. But she liked the floor before.
She had slept on the floor when she was a young child in that martyr system.
Oh, this is when she was so young. Okay.
Yeah. So this is when all medical avenues had been exhausted. They had done everything that they could. She's on anticonvulsants. She doesn't seem to be getting better. Priests Renz and Alt, they began the preliminary steps towards exorcism. So they did a trial exorcism to ascertain whether or not Annaliese was truly possessed. So a large part of exorcism, I don't think I knew this, it's kind of interrogation at first.
Yeah,
they got to find out if there is a demonic entity and why it's there and taking control of the individual. And so at one point, the priest sat down next to her and they mentally commanded, depart from her, say who you are.
Right.
And they said immediately Annaliese went into a frenzy. She grabbed herself by the neck and destroyed the rosary which she was wearing. Now here's the problem with most cases of demonic possession and exorcisms. It's all eyewitness testimony. There's never any videos in the room. So everything I'm going to say from now on is going to come from people who were, presumably in the room when the exorcisms occurred.
I mean, I can see why these go to court sometimes.
Yes. In the case of Annaliese, the involvement of the church means that they did keep detailed notes and case files were kept by the priests involved in the exorcism. That's how we know about the destruction of the rosary. To the religiously minded people, they believe only the most powerful demons can destroy holy objects. I don't know how strong a rosary is. I don't think I've ever really had one. But for whatever reason, her destroying the rosary made them believe she was truly possessed by a demon. And that's when they went and appealed to the Bishop of Wurzburg to approve a real, true exorcism. So that was just like I said, the pre-trial exorcism.
It's like the initiation meeting for construction.
Something like
They're
that.
like, this is, let's create a proposal and we're going to take it.
So I won't go into all of the details, but basically they went through the whole process. Like you mentioned, I think in the beginning, when we were first talking about demonic possession, you have to go through all of these approvals within the church to get permission and proof that this person is truly possessed, and then they will send out, I guess, the big guns, the people who really know how to do.
From the Vatican and whatnot.
Exactly. So once the approval was received, the priests are able to initiate the centuries-old ritual of Catholic exorcism. It's also known as the Roman ritual of 1614. On Sunday, August 3rd, 1975, Annaliese underwent her first exorcism.
The Catholic religion is just so... like, I don't know. Like, I love movies that involve Catholicism because it just feels so secretive and deep, and like the secret society of these superheroes almost in some way.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like, oh, I want to be part of that.
But not.
I have read, because I think actually when I watched this movie years ago and they said it was based on a true story, I may have read some of these things about it. I don't remember reading about Annaliese specifically, but I think I read it about maybe the priests or something, and it's interesting to listen to them.
I watched a movie that came out recently. I thought it was a really good movie. It had Russell Crowe.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen that too.
The Pope's Exorcist is what it's called.
Yes.
It was a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. That movie shows you like kind of the process that they go through and how they send people out, and there's even advocates that are like, well, they don't think it's real, but these people think it's real, and this and this. So it's always been really interesting to me.
They're doing the Roman ritual, and it's at this point that as soon as the exorcism began, the demons began speaking through Annaliese in deep guttural voices. Everyone present said that they were deeply disturbed. So the priests that were at the exorcism said it was unusual for demons to reveal themselves right away. So the priests were unprepared, and they were struggling to even comprehend how quickly Annaliese was speaking. So they began recording everything for the bishop and others to study. And it was actually Annaliese herself who requested that they make audio tapes and that they be made public across the world so that people would believe there was a devil. So she asked for that, and we have audio tapes from all of these exorcisms. There's actually 42 audio tapes to be exact.
Wow.
And there's actually some YouTube videos out there called the exorcism tapes, I believe, where you can listen to all of them. I am going to play some here in a minute. When I listen to these, some of these exorcisms would last over 4 hours. And I don't know how your voice could do that for 4 hours, even if you were faking it, let's say.
Oh, recording audio of it constantly going.
Yes.
For 4 hours, just nonstop babbling.
And it's speaking in these really deep voices. So those are the things. And we're going to hear some like weird screaming. And
well, they're saying, how did it come forward so quickly? Well, if he is in there, whoever's in there, they'd been waiting. She's been going through this for quite
a while.
Some time.
It's been,
they're like, hi, priest, I've been waiting for you.
It's been
type of situation.
7 years at this point.
Okay.
Because it started in 1968.
That's what's so confusing about these possessions. It's like we see them happen.
Yeah.
And it's like the end goal is to meet the priest.
You're right. They always want to meet the priest. Well, let me tell you who was supposedly possessing Annaliese. During these first few sessions, 6 demons actually revealed themselves. 6.
So it is multiple personality.
Or is it 6 demons possessing
one
her?
Likes spiders and one likes pee.
So here are the 6 demons that revealed themselves. And this is actually on a tape that you can listen to. Are these demons coming forward? Lucifer.
Okay.
Judas.
Okay.
Nero. Cain.
All right.
Hitler.
Ugh.
And Fleischmann. And Fleischmann was a disgraced 16th century priest.
Oh.
Here's the other interesting part. When Hitler was supposedly talking, he would announce himself to the priests with a correct Austrian inflection, like the same way that Hitler spoke. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
The demons would criticize the church. They would ridicule the faithful and faithless alike, and they would exalt their own power. Another interesting thing that I saw, I don't actually have this in the notes, but Fleischmann, the disgraced priest, was able to tell very specific details about why he was excommunicated from the church. And this was not something that anyone outside of, I guess, like the priests would know, because
like
this is
the
something
inner circle.
Exactly. This is not something that would have been published. It would have been top secret Catholic Vatican record, like only true bishops, etc., would know these details that were coming out. So that was another thing that was very interesting to me. When Lucifer spoke, he claimed to say, or it was claimed that he said, "I want to conquer the earth for myself." When Hitler spoke, he would say, "People are stupid like pigs. They think it's all over after death, but it goes on." According to exorcists and paranormal experts, these names may have been chosen by other demonic entities in order to inspire fear and dread in those who were there. It's not necessarily that it was Lucifer and Judas. It's known in demon possessions that demons will use
other
no, like they will use other names that they know will instill fear in people, so they wanted to sound, I guess, more badass than they were.
Well, I guess okay, they're
like
tricksters. Really, it's like Tom from down the street, and he's like, "I'm Lucifer."
That's what I'm saying. So what I'm hearing is demonic entities have penis envy.
Obviously, what the heck? Well, that doesn't help us. I get why that happens though, because the priest is like, "Oh my gosh, we need the big guns," and he's like, "You really don't."
Like you said, it was Tom.
You can just you can just flick me on the nose and I'll disappear.
I'll be like, "Ow, that hurt. I'm gone."
I don't know why I choose Tom. I always choose random names.
But whatever the truth was behind these names, it did obviously disturb anyone who was in the room when
Hitler,
you hear that. Yes.
And they're in Germany.
Of course.
And it's in the 70s. I mean, it's not,
It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
The other thing that happened when Annaliese was talking to the priests in these demonic voices is she would use so many curse words, and Annaliese being the good little church girl, it was very out of character. I think that still goes along with dissociative disorder that's known. While she was talking in these different 6 demons, she would begin speaking in tongues. So she would speak languages other than German, which is not something that she would have known unless maybe she learned some Latin from reading the religion, but not enough to carry
fluently.
On. Yes.
And using the correct
that's always
dialect
interesting.
Or whatever.
Annaliese would also say that she saw other demons dancing around the priests while they were trying to exorcise the ones inside of her.
Little baby goblins.
She said they were like mocking the priests, like, "Oh, look at them trying," and she would call that out. They also said invisible forces would throw Annaliese's body from wall to wall, and she was almost always covered in bruises from head to toe. And I actually have pictures of her and
midair.
No, of course not. Never. But her laying in the bed after the exorcisms, and she is black and blue.
Aww.
Her head and face were so bruised that they looked almost black. Her eyes were swollen. She could hardly see. She looked like she had been abused. She was so battered.
See, that's what's scary.
Right.
Our brains are thinking possession. This is happening because I will sit here and say, yes, I believe these things can happen. But if it's not possession and everything that we have in these confessions or whatever accounts from other people, and it's just people holding her down and like restraints and other things, this is extreme fucking abuse.
And we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Black and blue all over, really?
They also said that she would gorge herself on large amounts of food and drink, but she always looked emaciated. And remember, in the original story, when I first started, the reason for death was starvation. But the priests are saying that she was eating during the exorcisms.
Well, I'm assuming she then threw it up exorcist style.
Probably.
So, I mean, it cancels each other out.
They also claim that she could move tables and chairs within the room.
With her brain?
I guess, or the demons. So at this time, I want to play, I'm going to try this from my phone, a sound. Let me turn it all the way up. This is a short clip from the exorcism of how Annaliese sounded.
Okay.
Can you make that sound for hours on end?
No, because what that is 2 different things going on at the same time. Guttural, there's literally a noise we cannot make that is also going on at the same time.
That like gave me chills when I just played that. Like,
did she have a cat in her tummy?
I don't.
I mean, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like ridiculous screing with a cat like in her esophagus.
I just don't know how you would make those noises.
I don't see how you can.
A 100-pound little 22-year-old girl.
And that is bloody murder screaming. Because if you listen, it's not like the other one stops when the other one starts. like almost want you to play that again so I can listen.
I'm going to play some other audio here in a minute. So the question is, was someone who has multiple personality, would they be able to do that?
Were they all banding together to yell at the same time when they're doing stuff like this? I mean, Tom and Nick and Jerry.
The three guys. No, it's Hitler, Nero, Cain, and Lucifer. Oh, Judas. Don't forget Judas. So often the exorcism sessions, and once again, she went through 67 sessions in 10 months. So this was no joke.
That's a lot.
That's a lot for her little body to withstand. They would culminate in such brutality because she would be throwing things around the room or hitting towards the exorcist, the priest, whatever, that they would have to hold her down or chain her to a chair.
That's just damage too. I mean, she's going to be thrashing against it regardless.
That's where I get...
Yeah, it is abuse in some way. Because here's the hard part about that. And I guess if you're trying to expel someone out of a body, you do need to contain them in some way. But there has to be other ways, because unless she possessed was trying to murder you...
Right. Why are
you doing it this way?
Yeah.
It's still abuse in one way or another. 67 times. One time, 2-3 times, maybe I understand. 67?
67 seems excessive, but the demons weren't coming out.
Well, then maybe there weren't any, and she had a frog in her throat.
We're going to play some more here in a minute. So these terrible episodes kept continuing, and they kept performing the exorcisms. But Annaliese would experience periods of lucidity. So I think this is interesting. So during these moments, she would spend time with her boyfriend, Peter, and they would plan their future together.
See, that's what's so fucking weird. So she's acting, I'm using the word acting. She's being one way around her mom and the priests and everybody else. And then when she gets that moment to be with her boyfriend, she's like, I'm totally cool. Yeah, let's get married.
But she's got black eyes, like I would think.
I mean,
that doesn't go away.
Makeup?
I guess. She's really good
I mean,
at it.
I'm sure he's very concerned about her. Who knows the conversations that they had to and what was going on between their relationship. Do all we know is that she had a boyfriend named Peter and she saw him sometime?
He was her constant companion whenever she was lucid, and they would plan their future out together. They wanted to be married when all of this was over. So underneath all of the horror, there was a real sense of hope that Annaliese had, that she would get better between the medicine or the exorcisms or a combination of both. She was very hopeful, according to Peter, of being cured and that they could get married and live a normal life. They would go walking in the woods nearby. However, Peter does tell a story that one time when they were in the woods, Annaliese started walking off alone, and Peter said it was like she was in a trance. She would later claim that she was walking alongside the Virgin Mary that day.
Aww.
Annaliese said that the Virgin Mary told her, "It pains my heart that so many souls are going to hell. Someone needs to do penance. Would you like to do penance for the souls so that they do not enter hell?" So this is where I'm going to go into another theory about what was going on with Annaliese, which is the martyrdom
or something. Mary, that's not kind of you to ask somebody, especially a teenager. Even if she had agreed, then she wouldn't then seek help, right?
Right. She'd want to just die.
Right. She would go through with whatever punishment was being done to her. It wasn't of her own asking, but she's taking, like Jesus, right? She would just then do it.
So she came back home after that trance and supposedly speaking with the Virgin Mary. And she told her family and the priests that she was given 3 days to consider the offer of paying penance for the souls to keep them from entering hell.
Which ones? Because, I mean, life's gone on since.
Only if you're born before she died, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
She told them that she felt much better than she had in a long time, and that the Virgin Mary had relieved her of the demon possession for the next 3 days while she considered the Virgin Mary's offer.
Interesting.
So the Michel family was initially skeptical of her vision, which I think is probably the sane reaction. I don't know. But they said that Annaliese was very happy for those 3 days and seemed in better health.
So Mary can come in at any time and be like, 6 fuckers, leave her alone?
Well, yeah, where's Mary?
What the fuck? What?
So this could show mental illness, dissociative. I don't know. Like I said, I'm just reading the
How
facts.
is it the warfare between these entities and spiritual beings? If the spiritual beings can come in and be like, I'm going to give you 3 days because I can totally do this. I just didn't want to before.
I thought it was kind of fun to watch you. blanket
what?
thrown around the room.
I'm kind of confused by that.
She did express to her mother that she desired to accept this proposal from the Virgin Mary, and her parents tried to dissuade her, but she wanted to move forward. And this is where I get into what I was talking about, which is the martyrdom syndrome. This is defined by the need to seek out suffering due to a psychological need to prove your religion, to prove your devotion to God.
Okay.
It manifests as an extreme form of penance out of love and duty towards others. Now, you think back to what I told you in the beginning about Annaliese sleeping on the floor as a young child because drug addicts, like this has been building in her brain for a long time. And now this is the manifestation of it. And now she's going to conquer these demons and save all these souls from hell. That makes me think there's something mental there.
It's so hard. This is hard because I guess the one thing that I'm stuck on right now is that if it was Mary or someone else that came to see her, because it's not like we talked about this once. It's not like they say they're, hi, I'm Mary.
Right.
It's not like sometimes it's a knowing, or they're like, this is who came to see me. If she had the power to stop the possessions and everything that she was going through, that's what stumps me. The mental stuff, some people do have higher purposes. You know, some people really do have higher purposes, and they're here as, you can call them prophets or whatever, and they're doing other things. I really do believe that. But this seems strange because she's not doing anything yet. It's just all pain for her, and for what reason? And she lived that way her whole life.
Right.
And she didn't seem like she actually wanted to do that. I mean, yes, she had the experience when she was younger, but she did just want to be a teenager. It seemed like she wanted to be a teenager and have all these things, and she never could. I think it can happen. I'm still here, and I'm like, it's very possible.
Demon possession,
She had demon possession, and she was visited by someone who said, this is what we need you to do. Because in the grand scheme of things, I think that happens. There are people who are chosen who have to do very specific fucked up things, and that's just what happens. But does her entire life have to be so, like, I'd almost believe it more if it happened instantaneously
instead of
not
like stressed
this is
out.
an extreme lead up to everything and all of this trauma.
So Annaliese claimed that in her vision, it was foretold that the Virgin Mary would return on October 31st and expel the demons if she accepted that offer.
Okay.
So that day came, and according to the priests, the demons were unusually passive on that day. They began an intensive session of exorcism, during which they were able to extract desperate cries of agony from all 6 of the demons who claimed to inhabit the girl. When they started praying to the Virgin Mary, a truly chilling cry came from within Annaliese, and the voices yelled out, "She's coming!"
Like all at once?
Yes.
Do you have a video?
I have audio.
Do you have a recording?
Mm-hmm. It's in German, so we're not going to understand it, but you can hear it.
But is it 6 voices?
I don't know. Let's listen.
Okay. I might have to listen back several times. Okay. Fuck.
I got chills again. I don't know why.
It's like I listened to that last one and then I just completely forgot. And then I come back to this second one and I'm like, all right. Matthew McConaughey coming out. I don't know. Yeah, fuck.
I just don't know how a little girl's making those noises.
I don't think
she's
not. Let's just let it go.
Okay. Anyway,
she's possessed. She had a fucked up life. She had every reason to pretend and want to do all this other fucking shit, but she's possessed.
Y'all
Case
have to tell
closed.
us what
all
you
right.
think. Okay.
End of episode.
We're done.
All right. Check out our social media.
Stay lucid. Okay, we got to keep going. I have more. Don't worry, I have more. I have another audio to play.
Damn.
In case y'all want to know. Okay. So after the demons had been banished, after you heard them scream, Annaliese said in her normal voice, "I'm completely free now. It's so wonderful.
Oh, and then her body's so fucking wrecked that she dies? No, she's sick in her head. Okay, I wasn't right this time.
It was at this moment, right after she said she was completely free, that the most unusual twist of any possession case happened. Reportedly, 10 to 15 minutes later, all 6 of the demons were back, complaining that as much as they wanted to, they could not leave. They were trapped inside of Annaliese.
What? Would Mary go on vacation?
From then on, they would complain daily, sometimes continuously, about how they wanted to leave, yet they were mysteriously bound to Annaliese. Father Alt described how they would scream, "We want to go, but we're not allowed to." As for Annaliese herself, in her more lucid moments, she would complain of the great pain she was enduring.
Is this what she agreed to with Mary then?
It didn't sound like it. It sounded like Mary was going to expel the demons.
Just for the day of October 31st, and then they come.
15 minutes.
15 minutes is not nothing. What the heck? It wasn't Mary.
Maybe it was another demon.
It was Margaret from down the street.
Maybe it was another,
Jenny.
Yeah,
It
was
Jenny
another
from the
demon
block.
fucking with her. Jenny from the block. She's like, I'll do this for you. And instead, it just made the demons trapped or something.
that is a creepy thing to think about because they're tricksters, right? And maybe it really wasn't one.
Maybe whatever they did made the demons trapped.
Maybe all the ones that were there were the smaller ones and a bigger one was stop pretending to be me. Guess what now? I'm going to fucking trap you.
It sounds like something happened. Just
She's
the vessel.
the vessel.
So on May 30th, 1976, Father Alt sought help because he didn't know what to do. And so he called up Dr. Richard Roth, who had previously been involved in the case. And Alt asked him to prescribe medication to help soothe Annaliese because she was in a great deal of pain. However, the doctor said he didn't want to do this because he said, "I can't give medication to a possessed person because I do not know how that might affect them. There is no injection I can give against the devil." So after this doctor examined Annaliese and apparently noticed that she had stigmata marks, he said she had the wounds of Christ on her legs. So I don't know, I guess that would be nails. Later, it was also alleged that there were nail-inflicted wounds on her hands as well. So this Dr. Roth is saying that he saw stigmata when he came to see her.
What's on the legs? I mean, rope.
I think they put nails through his ankles as well.
Well, I know, but legs.
I'm not sure.
Rope?
Probably just scratches.
I mean, we've only been taught the story a million times.
I've even watched The Passion of the Christ.
And
I should know this.
Yeah, that's a really good movie, by the way. I watched that in the movie theater and I was very touched.
It was a very good movie.
I felt a certain way after watching that.
I watched it when I was still Christian.
Well, it doesn't matter. Like, I watched it when I wasn't involved with any church.
It's just still like, yes, a very well done movie. It was from this point onwards, Annaliese began to decay despite being provided with constant nourishment.
Apparently.
Like I said before, she was eating food and supposedly drinking, but she was dangerously thin and she had lost all color. The priests were not too concerned about her emaciation because they said that had happened the previous year and then she returned quickly to her normal healthy size. So they thought it was just a cycle that she would pull through. However, she started claiming that in July something would change. Well, that change was on the 1st of July in 1976 at the age of only 23. She died.
She just died.
As I said before, by the time she died, she had endured the rite of exorcism 67 times, some of those sessions lasting up to 4 hours. In her final moments, her mother was there, and Annaliese's final words to her mother was, "Mother, I'm afraid." So the apparent cause of death was starvation. The autopsy report stated that she weighed a mere 68 pounds and that she suffered from broken knees due to continuous genuflections, which is where you just keep falling down on your knees praying. If you remember in the story I was saying that it broke her knees.
Ooh.
So that's all the details of this story. And I'm going to get into the trial now, but I don't know.
Do we have to?
I can play another audio.
Yeah, let's just remember why I said end of episode. You need to remind me too, because I'm going to keep going back and forth in my head.
I'm going to play one more audio. Just know that when this went to trial, there were 42 tapes, and they did play many of these in the trial. So in the aftermath of Annaliese's death, the government proceeded to file charges, and the charges were for negligent homicide against the 2 priests, so Renz and Alt, and then Annaliese's parents, Anna and Joseph, so her mom and dad. At the time, it was the first official and public case of exorcism in Germany in approximately 50 years. Because as I said before, Germany was very secretive about this.
Right.
It is the only known case to have been recorded on audio tape. So this is like really the only time we've heard, because that's something very locked down by the Catholic Church. And the only reason we hear these now and that they're public record is because of this trial.
Why would they not want us to hear that? Influence? Maybe there would be too many cases and people being able to
that could be because then people could
similar.
Fake it more because for whatever reason people do want to do that.
It's called attention.
So at the court case, the priest stated they had sent Annaliese to as many doctors and psychiatrists as they could. They claimed they did everything that they could medically, and that the only thing they could find was that it had to have been demonic possession. Annaliese's mother on the stand claimed that it was Dr. Luthi who had recommended that the family consult the Catholic priests for help because he didn't know what else to do with her.
Yeah.
So to a lot of people involved in the case, they felt like the ineffectiveness of the medication proved that it was demonic possession. According to Father Gabriel Amorth, he's the former chief exorcist for the Vatican, and he claims to have performed over 30,000 exorcisms in his career. He said resistance to medicine is one of the typical symptoms of demonic interference.
Resistance to medicine.
I guess when you're having these kind of crazy symptoms.
Okay.
However, in the case of Anneliese Michel, I do want to bring up that this was the 1970s.
Yeah.
Epilepsy was not as well understood as it is today. For example, the MRI machine that really shows and is used for diagnosis, that wasn't invented until 1977. So they didn't have really good brain scans to show if it could have been epilepsy or
something else. Like I said, like there was something underlying making it so that she was constantly getting sick and with like really bad shit.
Right.
You know, like she was not okay.
Something was ailing this girl from 5 years old. They also mention, we do know now today that there is a form of epilepsy that is drug resistant. I didn't know this until I researched this case, but they said some 20 to 40% of epileptics, so that's a pretty high percentage,
good chunk,
have that drug resistant form. You know, Annaliese could have had that. We also want to talk about, I'm going to go back to The Exorcist. That was released in Germany in 1974.
Okay.
And that triggered the whole, they were calling it possession fever. And so they saw more people saying they were possessed. This was around the time that Annaliese would have been saying that she felt like she was possessed. So she'd been having these medical problems since 1968. And then come 1974, that's when she really started pushing to the priests that she thought she was possessed.
I mean, some things that we have to consider when it comes to this, though, is just because they see something, maybe it's them saying, oh my God, this explains what's happening to me. Like, you know, not all of it is like, ooh, that's cool. I'm going to be possessed. I'm going to go through all this shit and die. No, it's more like something is explaining something that I never knew how to name.
I would have never thought of this before.
And can I talk to somebody about this? That's the whole point of awareness. We were just talking about it.
That's why we're doing what we do.
If you don't ever see it and it doesn't have a name for you, how are you going to explain it to someone else? It's just going to sound crazy. I mean, imagine someone explaining Tourette's for the first time. I just say fucking shit all the time. I don't know why. And then I hit myself.
Yeah. They're like,
and
what?
then someone would say, well, then don't do that. They're like, I literally can't stop doing that.
I know. It's like,
why not?
Why not just stop?
Exactly.
So during the trial, the state prosecutor, after all of their investigating, said that Annaliese's death could have been prevented even 1 week before she died. That's why he brought up the negligent homicide, because they were seeing her withering away. But according to the priest, they were feeding her and like her body just wasn't taking it. So I don't know, you know, that's sounds hard. Like, which side do you believe?
I mean, in the 70s, there's intravenous as well, right?
Yeah, they could have.
So they could have done things. They could have been trying to
do more,
hydrate her and make sure that she was taken care of regardless when she's sleeping.
Right. And that's why I think negligent homicide is fitting for this, because they could have done more instead of just trying exorcisms all the time. I mean,
the demons aren't the only things killing her at this point.
Her body is falling apart.
I mean, if they're gone and all that's left is her and her body, then it's not going to last.
And I'm going to show you some pictures. And this girl looks so frail, and her face she looks like she's been abused.
Yeah.
So according to the doctors who testified at the trial, they told the court that Annaliese died of a combination of epilepsy, mental disorders, and an extreme religious environment, which in the words of Professor Hans of Würzburg University added up to a spiritual sickness and heavy psychic disturbance. Both priests told the court they remain convinced that the woman was possessed and that her death finally freed her from the 6 demons. The parents also remained convinced that Annaliese was possessed, but not that she was freed. So I don't know what they mean by that.
It's her mom's shame and guilt that still won't let her go when her daughter is dead, that her daughter went to hell.
Here's what happened, because her parents felt that she was still possessed in death. So in February, the parents ordered that their daughter's body be exhumed from her grave because they said a nun told them that she had a vision that their daughter's body was still intact, and that was proof of her being possessed.
Oh, goodness.
So they exhumed the corpse of Annaliese. Authorities said it showed normal body decay and that it was attended by hundreds of curious spectators.
Okay.
So in 1978, all 4 were found guilty and were given,
Okay.
and were given 6 months suspended prison sentences and 3 years probation.
This is one of those things where they say, think about it, church and state need to be separated.
Yes.
This is an example. This is church and state separated, and they were tried for what we see without spirituality being involved.
Yes.
Because that's how it should be.
Exactly.
And we're sitting here talking about, well, if she truly was possessed, then, oh my gosh, you can't say that they should go to jail. Like, they were doing what they could to help her and save her. But no, they weren't. We already kind of talked about this just a minute ago, that they could have done more. She could have been on
they
IVs.
Could have. I mean, if that was my daughter dying in that horrible way, I think I would have done more. I don't know. It's 1970s. But I feel like I wouldn't just watch her waste away.
No, there
and
are
keep
ways.
Trusting that the Catholic priest going in there for 4 hours with the door shut all day were doing the right thing.
She wasn't even in there. For all we know, she was being sexually assaulted.
We don't
know. We don't know anything. But okay, I keep going back to your audio.
I'm going to play audio again.
Is there video? You said there is video?
Oh, no, not video. They only took audio. There's never any video of exorcisms.
How do we know it's not the fucking dudes doing the...
It could have been.
Gosh darn it. Here we go. Rawr.
Rawr.
They literally could have just went and recorded something, and that's what's screaming back at the dudes talking. Maybe she's just fucking laying there after they raped her. Sorry, I'm stuck in my last episode.
You're getting,
We only have audio.
Yeah.
Was there an autopsy done on her when she died?
Yes, and I'm actually about to talk about that. So I talked through they exhumed her body and she was, not intact like the nun said. So no proof there of possession. But let's talk about the medical side of it from the pathologist who did the autopsy. They actually took her brain during the autopsy to look at it, examining it for epilepsy in the way that they could back then. However, her brain showed no damage, which would have been caused by epileptic seizures, not even on a microscopic level. So this is really interesting to me. Equally bizarre in the findings was that she had no bed sores on her body or ulcerations on the skin, which are usually associated with victims of starvation.
Starvation, and she's essentially been bedridden forever.
So
I'm sorry, did I bring up something that wasn't considered?
What's that?
Was the mom not with her?
I don't think moms are allowed in the room during exorcisms. I think only priests are. Okay, I'm going to play the other.
All right, do it, because now I need convinced again because
You're going down a dark path.
It's not even dark. It's just realistic. That's what sucks.
Okay, I'm going to play the last audio that I have, and this is while they were having a conversation with the different demons, supposedly.
Du weißt noch, was du zu sagen hast? Und des Heiligen Geistes. Gottes. Des Heiligen das Seil Sprich das Seil zum Ausfahren.
So I'm going to bring us to a conclusion now after that
Can we reach
noise. Well, I'm just going to tell you more about what's happened since the death.
Okay.
The very tragic death. And when you guys see pictures, I just showed them to
Me.
Jessica. Yeah. This girl was beautiful.
Yeah.
And she looks like she was abused.
Before this, she was so vibrant. She looked so happy and just like one of those girls who's just laughing all the time and someone snapped her picture. And then now she's emaciated and
she looks like the pictures you've seen from the Holocaust.
Exactly.
So we're going to conclude this story, and I'm just going to tell you that this was used as the inspiration for the 2005 movie, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. The family, so the Michels, whatever you want to call them, they never received any money for this. They never made any like books. They didn't go on to do anything similar to like what we saw with Amityville and some of these others. They never capitalized on this. I guess that's good. They didn't use this to try and become a moneymaker like some possessions or hauntings have been done.
But that doesn't mean there's not other personal reasons for going down this path.
I will tell you, this is the quote I read from her mother, and she says, "God told us to exorcise my daughter's demons, and I don't regret her death."
What?
I think that's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
Because if I was a mom, I would regret that. So I think her mom, and I don't know, it never says much about her dad from what I've read.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're just so caught up in their religion that they don't acknowledge that something terrible happened to their daughter, and they don't even want to consider that it could have been something other than demon possession. They think they did everything as parents, and bringing these two priests in, they thought they were doing everything to help their daughter, and they believe that she died for a good reason.
What a choice of words.
I know.
You don't regret her death. She was nothing by the end of it.
It brings a lot of conflict when I think about it. I will also tell you, many Catholics, they look to Annaliese. Like I said, they visit her gravesite to this day. They leave notes of gratitude and they pay homage to her sacrifice. There are those who believe that she was a martyr and that she was akin to a Christ-like figure.
Or just really abused and still visit her. You know?
And let me go back. So I said all four were found guilty and they were sentenced to prison, but none of them served any prison or probation because you had two priests and there was like this whole conflict between church and state.
Yeah.
And, you know, the priests thought they were doing something. It was their religious belief. And so they didn't lock them away. And then the parents, it was decided that they had suffered enough by losing their daughter. And so they did not serve any prison time either.
Well, she didn't regret her death.
No. So this one's complicated because at the end of the day, this beautiful 23-year-old girl who could have been suffering from some kind of mental disorder, epilepsy, a combination of both. She could have been possessed. I don't know. But like at the end of the day, she's dead now. And there's really no answers for this.
No, now I'm even more confused than before.
This is a hard one.
It's the 70s.
Why
they can record evil voices and do stupid shit. They really can.
And the mother was so trusting.
Yeah. And we know that things happen with priests.
And a
it's
pretty
behind
girl.
Closed doors. And she was very pretty.
And we're just coming off of Junko where we saw the worst of humanity. So
I don't know what to think right now. Dang it. When I heard the voices, I was like, heck yeah. And then I was like, wait a second. You can easily take 3 screaming different voices and throw them together on a track. And who's going to know Latin but priests?
True.
Well, they can do demon growls and they're men, so they can sound more manly.
And everything about this case is from behind closed doors. And the only people who can say if this did or did not happen is Annaliese's mom and siblings and the priest, but they're all in the religious.
Kendra wasn't expecting this from me. I can tell because I went down the other route. I said, wait a second, there's no video. Did you think I was going to think
that she was possessed?
Yeah.
I don't know. I never assumed to think what you're going to think. I personally don't think it was demonic possession.
Okay. I mean,
that's where I'm going to end. I do believe there is demonic possession, and I think it does happen. I think this case was a girl who was suffering from something, and it was fed into her brain that she was possessed, similar to Andrea Yates, and she went with it. And even if that was her making those noises, it's not out of the realm of possibility to make those noises.
I mean, and now that we're in the editing biz, you can make shit sound crazy.
Yeah, you can auto-tune it.
You can do anything you want. I don't know, but ever since I realized that they were locked in there with only them, and it's 67 times, I just have the ickiest
You're
feeling
thinking
about
nefarious. I didn't have time to research, but now I kind of want to look into these two priests and see what's happened. I mean, for all we know, they're now accused of crimes.
For all we know.
But they're German, so I don't know if that would be as out there as it is in like America.
Should we call upon Hitler?
It could also be that the Catholic Church wanted to capitalize on The Exorcist, and they made these audio tapes. It's just interesting.
No, I mean, that's a good point though, because if The Exorcist did come out,
it had come out 2 years before this happened.
Okay, then that makes sense, because we need to remember that churches, they're money makers too. They're the biggest money makers, and they don't have to pay all the fucking taxes, and they get to be their own states, and they get to do all this stuff. That makes ridiculous amount of sense. And I was even boasting about it. I love the movies when we were talking about the priests and the, the Vatican and all this stuff, because it's interesting. And then you have the books and the movies like Angels and Demons and all these things that are related. And
remember the statistic I gave you at the beginning where I said, what was it, like 60 or 80% of Germans at the time did not believe in the devil? How do you get people to believe in the devil and then give money to the Catholic Church and feel like they need to go to church every day? You bring a case that scares everybody to death.
Now you have the entire Germanic culture that's like, oh, crap.
Right.
We should have paid attention to this part of our religion, because they're like, we only have 3 people there, guys. Come on.
For all we know,
need more agents.
Church attendance had dropped. I don't know. Like, there are always ulterior motives for things. And this is all coming just us talking right now.
Literally right now.
I don't have anything written down about what my conclusion was, because I didn't have time to do that this time.
That too. But like, as soon as I asked her some questions offset, I'm like, okay, my entire opinion of this has shifted instantaneously.
We do this a lot.
I know we do.
But it's good discussion, and I think everyone should question everything.
Everything.
Because, it would be, creepy cool to say, oh, this was a possession, and now we have it on audio tape. But why all of a sudden did they want this one on audio tape when this has never been done any other time?
Yeah.
To this day.
No.
And this was right after the Exorcist movie, when people were obsessed with possession and wondering if it was real. And now, oh, look, the Catholic Church has audio tapes. And the only reason they're sharing them is because they got into a trial. But they also said that Annaliese was the one who said she wanted it on audio tapes, and that she was talking so fast they couldn't write like they usually do. So all of that does seem a little suspicious.
It does. And then she read me the transcripts from one of these audios, and I'm listening to the transcript that she's reading to me versus the actual audio. And I'm like, I don't hear that that's being said.
Yeah.
I don't know Latin. But at one point, it's still reading things that so-and-so demon has said. And I'm like, she's just screaming. She's not saying shit right now.
I want to go watch Emily Rose again.
I feel like we're going to have to come back to this one at some point, do a part 2, just get some more information, because right now I don't like some priests. So I'm looking at
all I know is that this poor girl went through some suffering. She said she was in pain. They asked the doctor to come in and give her medicine because she was in pain.
Yeah.
And she had a sweet little boyfriend that she wanted to marry.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, when she was just with him, she wasn't in this way.
And where were her parents to protect her? Because that's your number one job as a parent, is to protect your children.
Because what did you say in the beginning? She was delegated to be something.
I think the parents liked
the
notoriety
we don't
of it
even
all.
know what their social status was. What was the community? How small was it? How big was it? What was their place within
Klingenberg or whatever it was?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, we have to go to Vegas, so we're going to stop. But now we are debunking demon possession, so that's what we like to do. Actually, we never debunk anything. We just put it out there and let you guys make the decisions. But I think there's a lot of questions in this story, and it's good to think critically about it.
I think so, because we're in a time right now where all of these things are happening.
Yes.
Bringing really, really bad people to light that were once trusted or you felt you could always trust.
Yeah.
And if we don't sit there and
Question.
if we don't do that, then we're not moving forward. We just can't follow the narrative on this one. We just can't.
Well, this ended up being better than I thought.
It
For a
did.
rushed case, it brought a lot of good discussion. So I'm happy.
You're like, we were
Another
successful.
good controversial episode. But we're going to close it out now because I need to go pack and you need to go take care of your kitty cat and your daughter. So thank you all for listening today. If you like this, please go on your favorite podcast platform, like our show, and leave some comments because that helps us get visibility so others can listen.
Yes, please. If you have any personal stories about exorcisms or demonic possession, or you know somebody, man, those would be some really cool ones to hear and to tell your story on our lab reports. You can email those to lucidlabpodcast@gmail.com or write it in to P.O. Box 251, Eastlake, Colorado 80614.
And then please go visit all of our social media. We are at Lucid Lab Podcast, all one word, on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. And I will be posting pictures of this case. You can see the decline of Annaliese from a normal, beautiful young girl to what became of her right before she died. We'll be back next week. Every Tuesday, release a new episode.
Yep.
We'll try to find something that's not controversial, but no promises.
It's always going to be that way, I think.
It's just the way our brains work.
Alrighty.
But in the meantime, stay lucid, keep thinking.
Stay lucid. Yep.
And viva Las Vegas.
Yeah.